Hi, welcome to Eternally Bored.
But
What?
you can't welcome. Ian's not even sitting down.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Ready. Let's start again. Okay. Go.
You're not the one that has to edit this.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. Cutting Charles out of the front as usual.
Yes, it's the first cut.
Well, all right. Welcome back from our hiatus. We've had some difficulties getting together, recording, but luckily we had some backlog, so your service will continue pretty uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Mother's Day lasts 2 months now.
Yeah.
Was it has it been 2 months for us?
Published
Okay.
the Mother's Day episode on July 14th.
Okay.
So,
that's good to know.
So we're here today to talk about our least favorite mechanics in games. So we come back from hiatus with a very negative episode. Sorry about that, but it seemed like it'd be a fun topic.
Nothing's good's happened, man. I mean,
Actually, I played a lot of good games, but we're going to save those for the future episode. This episode is about bad games and bad game mechanics.
and negativity compounding on negativity as well. So.
Hell yes. So, but before we get to that, I do want to give a shout out to the Cubist podcast, which is a podcast and YouTube channel on our network, Punchboard Media. I'm actually going to be a guest on their video cast on their YouTube channel. They were broadcast weekly, I think, on Monday nights. So, check them out. They have recorded episodes and they have a podcast, and it's really good. So, give them a listen. All right, so let's just jump right into the topic du jour. So, my first question for this was, what makes a mechanic bad? So, like, if we were to distill these bad mechanics, do they have anything in common, or what?
I would say one of the principal things that makes the mechanic bad is age. Okay, and by that I mean a lot of board game mechanics have been around for a long time, and it seems like the ones that have been around the longest are definitely the most dated, not necessarily the most fair. So some of the games that we start out with, our most basic introductory games, have these mechanics that you just cannot keep doing because you just get tired of them. Very good example of that is like the roll of, like Candyland or something of that nature. You just can't deal with that for multiple iterations of games.
So would you say that older mechanics had an over-reliance on randomness? Is that fair?
Well, that is
Fair to say?
randomness is one of the core things in it, and yes, the older the mechanic is, usually the more random it's going to be.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to make a lot of decisions, not going to really have many paths to go, and just, usually your options are, do step A, go immediately to step B, rinse and repeat.
Alright, so there we're talking about roll and move, we're talking about dice-based combat.
Mm-hmm.
What else would qualify, I think?
Roll and move, dice-based combat. I would say that one of the well, I don't know if you'd go with gambling as mechanic or anything. I guess that would be risk management.
Yeah, okay, so like random card draws,
Yeah.
Both in the cards that you receive and pull a card and some random stuff happens to you. Looking at like chance and community chess and Monopoly would be a good example, or like everything that happens in the game of life. Basically, some random stuff happened. Compound that with the spinner, which is just another way of doing roll and move. And yeah, so it's kind of like randomness on top of randomness. And so I guess they minimize player agency and maximize the game just doing, like, happening to you. Like, you're not really in control of your destiny.
Correct.
I definitely have to agree with age being a factor because it's just like the first iteration of something. Most things can have a place, but usually the first time that someone brings them out, they're just not polished, and the game functions, but someone else just thinks of a better way to do it, and then you start playing the new game, and the old game looks aged in comparison. Not just because it was bad, but because it didn't have a chance to be thought out as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think newer games do sometimes use these mechanics, but they definitely like find ways to increase player agency. I mean, like, if you look at the evolution, we'll go to Talisman, right? Like, Talisman has roll and move, but you get to choose the direction.
Yes.
So they doubled the amount of decisions you have well, I guess not doubled, because there's no way to multiply 0 decisions, but and get any number of decisions. But they added a decision. They
Right.
went from 0 to 1 decision. You can go either way.
You get branches, right?
Yeah.
Everything's still going to take you to the root, but at least you
Yeah.
have some illusion. What do you think makes a mechanic bad?
No, I think over reliance on randomness is at the heart of it, except for one of the other mechanics I'm going to talk about today. And then there's, I mean, we're going to obviously talk about Take That as a bad mechanic, and that is also a mechanic that's been around for a long time, and sometimes it's used in a decent way, I would say, in modern games, but in most modern games, when they use it, it's not really any different than, you know, the way it's always been used, where just like some stuff happens to you. Although in this case, Take That, it's the player decides, instead of the game deciding that bad things are going to happen to you. Now, does that make it worse or better? What do y'all think?
I would say both of them are bad. It just sort of depends upon how the game implements it itself. It's like, are we going to have, you know, yeah, I mean, I guess basically we're just going to have moments where you are just trying to do something with the, I don't know. I can't get my thoughts together today. We'll have to edit this out. All right, continue. So.
Yeah, I would say probably it makes you feel worse, because when the game decides something bad's gonna happen to you, it's not your friend, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it's almost like the luck gods have decided to frown upon you, right? But like when someone else at the table decides like, oh, I'm gonna take this card and do bad things to you, then it's like, well, why didn't you do that to someone else? Like, why? In other words, why did you choose me to do the bad thing to? Was it because I'm in the lead? Yeah, so that can sometimes be a reason where it's more acceptable. It's like, okay, I was winning, so they did something bad to me to prevent me from winning. But sometimes, like, it's arbitrary. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, you attacked me earlier, so even though this other player is doing really well and much better than you, I'm going to attack you back. And so then it becomes, like, spiteful.
But vengeance is more of that's more of a player-based thing.
Yeah.
Vengeance is not a mechanic. Vengeance is something that some people you shouldn't be playing games with like to do to make the entire game fun for them. Because we've all played with people who are just stuck. Like, they're just waiting for someone to do any move to them, even if it's one where they, you know, like you are forced to do a negative action and you do it to them, and then they're like, oh, you picked me, however method you did, I'm going to get you the rest of the game. But I did want to talk about one more part of the whole age, because we're talking about older mechanics that are bad. There's also a big function of brand new mechanics that just do not work. There's a certain amount, like in age, you can be too old and antiquated. You can also just be too new and too untested. And I do believe, like, we've seen a lot of games that have come out with things and they just try to put too much in. And because it's the first game to do it, you know, it seems like it works, and then all of a sudden it just sort of blows up in your face.
Hey, I like Lacerda games. Come on.
Yeah,
Dexterity games.
I mean, how many mechanics can he put into one game? I don't know. I'm starting to warm up to him. Like, I had problems with some of his other games, but I bought Vinhos, and we're hopefully going to play it today, and we'll see how that goes. But I think I like Lisboa, and I think that might be my current favorite of his. But
how did we get into Lacerda? I wasn't even thinking about Lacerda.
So, okay.
I just wanted to jab in there.
What new mechanics were you thinking about?
I was thinking like something like Tricarion, where you add like this large, intricate, like magic system, and then you put, you know, you don't really, it seems like you tested it, but you didn't, and then you have to go to an expansion in order to sort of fix the game that you had before, because, you know, you might have this overly elaborate way to make a trick, and then, you know, but at the same time, it's, you know, yes, it's very complicated, but it sort of just drains the fun out of the experience for some people. And other people, I guess, they really don't like that type of stuff. I always felt like that game was like too new, too many untested mechanics, and when they all got together, they just didn't work initially. So
Yeah.
I mean, look, if there's a central theme to my disliked mechanics, it's probably level of control, because my biggest problem with the mechanic is when it runs through the way it's supposed to, sometimes it just prevents you from winning or prevents you from playing the game the way that you want to. And obviously there's the possibility of too much control or too much variability, but I feel like that's a real problem whenever I'm playing, and like if it's a dice roll and I only need to get like a 2 or a higher out of a 6 and I get the 1 and then I get the 1 again or something like that. It's not fun anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Push your luck.
Yeah.
So,
But he also really likes Terraforming Mars. So what's up with that?
That's at the other end.
Nice.
The other end of variability.
Yeah.
It's a problem. I mean, a game can have like low dynamic variability, like a game of chess or something. There's nothing surprising about chess, but the complexity and the interesting it arises out of a very strict set of rules, and that's obviously a master game. But there are some games where things that are too open, which actually leads into one of my disliked mechanics, which is a negotiation kind of thing. It's too loosey-goosey for me, and anything can happen, and it just prevents any kind of strong, consistency in the game. It's too variable.
Negotiation games tend to have also very fragile game state. Well, let's go ahead and get to the next topic because we're running a little long, but are there any mechanics that are always bad, or are the bad ones just misused? So can there be a good roll and move game? I know Stefan Fell recently designed one. I haven't played it, although the reviews were decidedly mixed. Merlin, I believe is the name of it.
Okay.
And have any of you all played that? Okay.
I actually went through the demo of it. So it was a while ago, but it just, I don't think you can save some mechanics. I think you can try. You can put a lot of stuff around it. You can put you could put it in a cardboard box and sell it on Kickstarter and say it's a donation, but it's still, dung in a box. So yes, that's my general feeling. I'll let you go since we were on.
I think people are so different that there's something for everyone, and there are some mechanics that I think just should never be in a game that will still sell, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's bad for some obviously is not going to be bad for everyone, but probably most hobbyist board gamers would not enjoy a mechanic like roll and move because it's just too random. But maybe there's a way to do it. I think if you put enough mitigation, like I'm pretty sure in Merlin you can kind of do things that kind of add 1 to your movement, subtract 1 to your movement, those kinds of things. So there might be a way to. Actually, now that I think about it, Xayah also has roll and move, and that's like a really modern game. And I actually did enjoy Xayah. And my problem with Xayah was not the roll and move portion; it was the roll a 20 and get a victory point, and you only need like a few victory points to win. That was a problem.
Of course, when you're dealing with a 1 out of 20 chance, the 5% push your luck for everything seems great because you're already rolling the dice, so why not? And that's the problem. That's why I said you are still going to end up with dung in a box for the simple reason that, whenever you're too reliant on a bad mechanics, it's almost like opening Pandora's box. You just want just a little bit of power, but for some reason that mechanic all the evil will eventually explode out of it at some point. And it might just be in 1 mechanic in your game or 2 mechanics in your game, but it's unavoidable. It's just like there's certain games that are like Agricola. It's completely broken if you don't draft the cards because there's so much randomness in the cards that you might just get the perfect hand that no one could do anything unless that extra level of mitigation is put into it. So
there's a place for most mechanics, but everything needs to be well implemented and mitigated away. Like obviously it wouldn't be a fun game if you roll a 6 and you win, or you roll a 1 and you lose. But even just watering that down to you roll a 20 and you get a victory point and you need 4 victory points, it's still just a watering down of the same problem. When they implement variability, I think they have to implement it in a way that it makes the game different but doesn't make you win or lose. Like maybe a resource becomes more plentiful or rarer or something besides just, oh, this is good and this is bad, and you can just get the bad thing over and over and over. It makes me not want to play a game when something like that happens to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder if board games would maybe even be more popular if some of these popular games modernize their mechanics. And I've played a modern version of Monopoly that used a victory point system where like you got the properties, and when you get a certain amount of properties, you just have enough points and you win. So it's not like based on money or going bankrupt or anything. And that was a really interesting take on it. It still had problems, and I didn't love the game, but it was definitely I think a better version of Monopoly. Same thing with Risk. Modern versions of Risk use victory point system as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know if those helped increase the sales of those games, or if the victory point versions are more popular than the classics. I feel like the problem with the classic versions of Risk and Monopoly and games like that is like they're still so like well known that just like their popularity from like the childhood of everyone continues on into adulthood, and like people still think of those as like the board games because that's what they grew up with.
Right,
even
and-
though we have better systems now.
But they're not trying to change their system. They are trying to be the toy in toy boxes. They are going to be, you know, the Buzz Lightyear toy or the Woody that every single generation of kid has in their toy box. Part of our toy box. It's part of like their collective upbringing as like either American citizens or even the world citizens for that matter. I mean, these worldwide companies are aiming at that, and that's what those games are trying to be. And you know, even if you add better stuff on them, you can't change it from the game that it was. And my best example of this is like Risk Legacy versus Pandemic Legacy. Risk Legacy is considered a pretty good game, and Pandemic Legacy at one point in time was one of the number one game on BGG, season 1 at least. And Kickstarted for all the other number one games. But anyways, it made it without Kickstarter, so I actually do consider it a true number one, even though they've been in flux. But I always do think that these games these mechanics are not meant to get better, and the people who are really running and putting them out there have no inclination to make them better.
It's kind of like loving a classic car that's objectively worse on every metric than the same version of the car that came out 20 years later, but it's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
I really love Risk Legacy, so I can't agree on that point. But
do you love it more than Pandemic Legacy?
They're about even for me. I think I have them both ranked a 9 actually.
Okay.
But I even love classic Risk though, so maybe I'm just like a glutton for punishment. I don't know. It's a nostalgia factor, although I don't have the same nostalgia factor for Monopoly or the Game of Life, even though I played those a lot when I was a kid too. But for some reason, I still enjoy playing Risk with my friends. But I haven't played it because Risk Legacy is just better. So it's like if we want to play Risk, we'll just play Risk Legacy instead of old school Risk, which could take 3 hours and has player elimination and all these other problems.
That make it great.
All right, so since we're talking about popular games anyway, why do we think these popular mechanics that most hobbyists think are bad? Why are they the most popular ones? Like why do games with like roll and move take that random card draws and things like that, Uno, whatever. For some reason, Uno has this strange resurgence now. Like, I hadn't seen Uno played in, like, 15 years, and now all my students play Uno. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it became a meme, and that's, like, but it just caused a resurgence in the popularity of Uno.
I feel like almost universally popular things are not the most refined versions of them, but the most accessible versions of them. You're talking about popular, that means large sales, that means people can get into it easily, even if they're not a super big fan. Those ones that you mentioned are things that you can explain in a couple of seconds that relate to other areas of lives that people are going to be familiar with, like memory games or roll and move. Like, it's simple to explain, like, roll the dice, it says do this, so do this. It doesn't allow you to build a grand strategy or have a deep game that you'd want to play for 4 hours, but it lets you sell 1 million copies to people who just want to play something with their kids that don't want to have to try to get a 45-minute explanation in.
Yeah, and a lot of these older games with antiquated mechanics, they're literally designed to be the only game in the house. So Risk plays 6, Uno plays 8 or 10 or 15 if you really want to keep on adding decks and not cheat out. Monopoly plays 8, Life plays 8. I mean, these are like, Twister, you can
Monopoly plays 8?
Monopoly plays 8.
I thought I only played 6. Oh my god.
They lowered the play count, but the Monopoly you grew up with played 8.
Oh my god, that's like a nightmare in a box.
Right. So you can just go with these games, and you know, the one thing that people don't have is, you know, a lot of electronic devices are a little bit more limited, like that within that sweet spot number of between, you know, more than 4 and less than 36, right? There's this sweet spot number, and you know, a lot of your parents won't play an electronic game, so here's something you can get to play with the whole family, your friends, or 15 minutes in class at school there for you. And I think that's why they're around. And then other games are just like, okay, betting and wagering. You know, Vegas has made it an art to go and bet and wager, and people want the experience of gambling something in their game, and it crosses over well. So.
I actually do want to do a whole episode about are poker and blackjack and other gambling games actually good games, but that's a topic.
That's
for
actually a
another
really
time.
good episode. That'll be our next episode after hiatus.
I went to a party with my dad and his friends, and they played left, center, right.
LCR.
Oh man.
For pennies, nickels, quarters, dollars.
We need to talk about that too, because I played LCR with my family and I had fun, but we had money on the line, you know, putting that money factor in.
Yeah.
But again, that's for another topic.
The craps player from Louisiana talks about gambling.
All right, are we ready for our least favorite mechanics, or did y'all want to make any final points before we move on?
Oh no, I think we can go to least favorite mechanics, because there were a lot to choose from. I
Yeah.
mean, we had things such as, you know, tile placement, which is pretty good mechanic, but other things like paper and pencil to go from. We went through the entire list of things that we could go through, so I think we got these down to some pretty good mechanics. So
All right. Well, honorable mentions. I have a couple. Player screens. I do not like player screens. It's not like in principle. And there's some games that I do enjoy with player screens, like Samurai is right up there. I love that game. So there's a few. Lancaster, which this iPhone is currently bouncing on, also has player screens. So there are a couple games that I'll make an exception for. But in general, I find it annoying to like have to keep all your stuff behind this little cardboard screen in front of you, and like if someone gets up to go use the bathroom or grab a drink, they can see all your stuff, and so you're like, not that, you know, we play with people that would cheat, but at a public meetup, if I didn't know the people, I'd be like, oh, is this person really going to get a drink, or are they trying to like look at my stuff? You know, I just think player screens are just kind of fiddly, and I wish we didn't have to use them.
I mean, and some games obviously do very well with them, and they make them gigantic. I think Alchemist does a good job with player screens as well. Actually, Samurai does a really good job. In some games, you don't need them as much, but yeah, I understand your point. For me, the honorable mention was acting. I don't know if I need to go really far into this. I do not like, when I'm playing a game, I do not like really getting up and being super demonstrative.
Now, let's check the Carfax on that. In the last episode, we talked about Time's Up, and I said, I don't think Charles enjoys Time's Up, and you corrected me. You were like, no, I like Time's Up. And you have to act, at least in the third round, of Time's Up.
I hate the third round of Time's Up. I hate it. And the fourth round is the worst. I do like the first 2 rounds of Time's Up, and I do hate the third round. So there we go.
So that's what it is.
You have called me out completely. But that's just an honorable mention. I didn't say it was bad. There's, you know, honestly, there's not a lot of games that use this mechanic, so it's not. Oh,
what's that game? They actually sell it in like Target and Walmart, where like the whole thing is like acting silly. It's like a roll and move game. I actually used to own it.
Oh goodness.
It has a weird name. I don't know.
Oh, Quelf.
Quelf.
Yes. God, that game.
That
you
game.
Want to talk about?
I actually did enjoy playing that game back in the day, but that's when like in my early 20s.
But it's like a one. You know.
Yeah. I don't want to like.
It has to be the right people.
Played it a couple times and I enjoyed it, but after that. So I had one more, unless one of y'all had it in your top 3, but random events? No? Okay. Random events. Hate random events in almost all games, mainly in competitive play, because, like, if I get a random event and it just, like, cripples my whole engine, but Charles gets a random event and it's a bonus or it just doesn't hurt him that much, then I'm like, well, great. So the game, you know, took a dump on my lawn, but then, like, gave Charles a boon or, you know, didn't hurt him nearly as bad as it hurt me. So, like, random events in competitive games, especially in co-op games, it's almost a necessity because you have to add randomness that the players have to deal with just to make it fun for the most part. Yeah. But, random events in competitive play.
I mean, you know, it is what it is. Every now and then you get a game like Robinson Crusoe, and you're just going to get killed or killed, maimed, or, you know.
But then we're all in it together.
I have a lot of honorable mentions, but I'm trying not to say a whole lot of things. probably the most contentious one, or the most interesting one, is probably co-op, because co-op by default, I'll just assume that I won't like it, but I can be convinced otherwise. For example, let me go against what everyone else thinks. I don't really have a lot of love for a game like Pandemic Legacy, where everyone is in it together and you're trying to execute an algorithm in order to win the game, because I sort of feel like it almost doesn't matter if I'm there. Like, I could step away to get a drink or something, and the game continues playing, and maybe the game continues playing just fine. There are ways that make it interesting for me, like a trader system, like a Battlestar Galactica, which
Yes!
Again goes against the zeitgeist because 90% of my friends hate that game. But also,
for good reason.
but also a narrative experience can save it, like Time Stories. Like, if it's not like a tight Euro co-op and it's more like a choose your own adventure or a narrative story where you're exploring the game, I love that. But if it's
you're not going to mention your favorite game, which
no.
is a co-op. Why not?
Which favorite game?
Hanabi.
Yeah. Okay.
His favorite game. I hate co-ops. Favorite game? The co-op.
But I like it because you get to yell at your friends. That almost doesn't feel like a co-op to me.
Watch the word. See, some
Turn
people
Hanabi into a competitive game.
Yeah, some people love to watch the world burn, and in Hanabi you can watch the world burn.
Whether or not I win, get a perfect score in Hanabi, whether or not what my score is at the end, it doesn't matter. I feel like I've won the game if I had a good yelling at my friends session, and I lost the game if I got a perfect game and it was boring and we all just sat there and played the game correctly.
Exactly, but you like to defend your choices. So there we go.
Did you have more?
I do. I don't want to go on about it. There are some things that in our friend group just internally seem relegated to non-serious or party games, like player elimination or press your luck. Like, you can't have a good, serious, memorable Euro competitive game experience with player elimination if you're the player that gets eliminated in the middle of the game. And then you get to go and do something else for an hour while everyone else has fun, or press your luck. I love some press your luck games, but it's hard to make a serious game about that kind of mechanic.
And I will say one more really honorable mention, and this is only because I've seen the dark side and the beauty of it. It is trading. Trading in games can be hell on earth or really good, and
there are not a lot of good trading games out there.
Yeah, there are not a lot of really good trading games. I agree, but sometimes you can see a trade system work pretty well. Sometimes it can just be hell on earth, and they basically, like, for instance, in Catan, they basically have designed all the new Catan so that, forced trading is in the game, so you never can get locked in the trading hell that was Catan.
I just hate, like, in that game, if you're ahead, no one trades with you. Meanwhile, the person who's really winning with 2 victory point cards across the table, everyone's trading with them left and right because they don't have as many visible victory points. So
yeah, that's why you can
problems with Catan.
That's why you can only play like the ones with the character card expansions, because they introduce the things to get around that particular lock. But anyways,
and I will disagree with Ian's last 2 honorable mentions. Player elimination, I don't mind if the game is short. Now, so my main problem with Werewolf is you get eliminated, and especially those games, I feel like the longer people in my friend group play Werewolf, the longer they want the game to be. Like, it used to be we could bang one out in 30 minutes even if it had like 15 players, but now games are taking like an hour, 90 minutes.
Individual roles.
Like,
everyone has to be a
everyone
special,
has a
so
different role. It takes 10 minutes just to explain the game, if not longer, and then they start playing, and then it lasts 90 minutes, and if you die in the first night, I hope you enjoy the next 90 minutes of your life watching everyone else have fun.
I've gotten my werewolf games. My werewolf games take about 30 minutes now.
Yeah, well, you're a good narrator, but there's plenty of bad narrators in the world.
Yeah.
And then what was your other honorable mention?
Pressure luck.
Yeah, pressure luck. I think those are fine. I mean, but yeah, you said you can't really make a serious game about it, and that I agree with. Pressure luck, almost like player elimination, needs to be in a short game, because you don't want to play like a 3-hour pressure luck game. You screw up a bunch early on, and then you're like, oh well. All right. Are we ready for our number 3s?
Let's go with number 3s.
All right. You want to go left to right?
Let's start with Ian. Go ahead,
All right,
man.
Ian.
All right. I hadn't really ranked them. So let's see. My least despised of my despised mechanics. It's probably. As I mentioned, as we both mentioned previously, negotiation, which wasn't actually one of the ones listed as a category on BGG, but both trading and partnerships, I think, are part of that. But my problem with that, like I said earlier, is it makes it really, really loosey-goosey, and you just can't tell what's happening. To me, it's person by person, but to me it almost feels like a job. Like, if I could be good at that kind of negotiation, I could do that and be making money. It's not fun.
Yeah. It's like, yes, every single turn does not have to be a job interview. I don't want to trick you into believing that I'm the best.
It's funny. A lot of people will say that about Euro games, and Ian's saying it about negotiation games.
That's natural human variability right there.
Yeah.
My number 3 is like secret unit deployment. God.
I like that.
Can't. It's just
What's a
gets
game that
on
you
my
don't
nerves.
like it in?
I mean, it's not. I mean, I guess my main thing is, this is one of the whole things with Game of Thrones, the board game.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
which will make you hate secret unit deployment, and just it's one of those things where I just feel like, all right, in real life, yes, secret unit deployment is there all the time. We never really know what's happening, but part of the reason I play board games is to escape some of the things of real life, and secret unit deployment is just like, why do I have to come up with all these plans and counter plans? It's sort of like introducing a level of randomness. Another thing, a game where it also plays into it is sort of like the Fury for Dracula and Letters from Whitechapel game, where I'm just chasing after like this mythical character that's just secretly going all around the board, and I'm just like, please let me just
Stop
them. Let me just find the way to get them. And and sometimes people are not good enough, and it's like, oh, it's too easy, and then other times it's like, oh, it's impossible. So.
It sounds like it's not secret deployment. It sounds like you don't like hidden movement, based on what you're describing.
Well, hidden movement is, hidden movement is very close. Secret deployment, I guess, is more of a,
Because there's not a lot of games that have secret deployment, but hidden movement is
hidden movement.
common.
Yeah, I guess hidden movement would be probably it. So anyway, I don't like hidden movement / secret deployment, depending on where we want to go. I don't like secrets in my board games.
Fair enough.
Unless board gamers are using secret at the table, that is the answer. Secret. If your underarms smell too bad, secret will keep you in check. Male board gamers. Done.
All right. I agree with you. All right, my number 3 is roll and move. So my other 2 mechanics, memory and take that. There's actually a few. Oh, I spoiled it, but that's fine. You probably could have figured it out based on what I was talking about earlier. So there are games that use that I enjoy. There's like no game that I enjoy that uses roll and move except for Clue, and I don't like that aspect of Clue. I like the deduction in Clue, and the theme of Clue is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a nostalgia factor there. I mean, I still own Clue, and I haven't played it in like probably 5 years or longer.
Yeah.
But
I'm struggling to think of a game that I've played that actually incorporates that. Just because it seems, I don't know.
What, roll and move or
Yeah.
Fireball Island?
Oh, no. Actually, the new version of roll and move, you use cards.
Yeah, the new version.
Yeah.
I think that's literally where it needs to go and stuff, because at least you can sort of anticipate and have some average number of rolls. But
Yeah.
some people would say that it takes the enjoyment out of the game, and that's the one thing roll and move does give you. It gives you the gambling type of experience, which is the board gaming or the gaming, all gaming cheap thrill. So
That is the worst feeling of Clue, though, when you know the answer and you roll one short of getting into the room to make the final guess, and someone beats you there, and they win the game because you didn't roll well enough. So yes, Clue has its problems, but I still enjoy it for some stringers.
I actually think Clue would be a very good game to go completely on an app.
Yeah.
But you would miss that human interaction.
I think there are some modern versions of Clue that don't use roll and move, but I haven't played those.
So what's number 2 mechanic? Okay. Since you spilled the beans.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't actually say why I don't like roll and move, but it should be self-explanatory. Just the randomness of it, and you don't have the player agency. I'd much rather control my movement in some way, or at least mitigate. So my number 2 is memory. My memory is terrible, and I feel bad because I often forget people's names, people's faces. Like, and if you know me for any significant period of time, you'll end up in some situation with me where I just don't remember something because I just have a really terrible memory.
This was also going to be my number 2 choice, but I forgot it.
This is also my number 2 choice because my memory is also terrible.
There we go.
Some of our friends love Time's Up, and they'll say, "You want to play Time's Up?" And I'll
Yeah.
be like, "Nope, I would rather sit here and watch you play Time's Up than play Time's Up because there's nothing worse in a game than playing it and your friends being like, just say the thing that you already heard." And I'm just like, I don't remember the thing.
Yeah,
I'll just sit here and lose because I'm useless. All right, let's do this.
You're not useless.
Yeah.
You just didn't care enough.
I'm good at playing Time's Up, but that's the part I struggle with is the memory because there's a big memory element in that game. But like I said, there are some games that use memory that I enjoy. I mean, Argent has a slight memory component, although you can play without it, where like you can. When people use their supporters, it goes into your discard pile, and in the game as default, it goes face down and you can't look at them. But you can play a variant where you actually can go through someone's discard, so you can remind yourself what they played.
Oh yeah, and you know the one thing about a good memory game is that you might have to commit something to memory that lasts the rest of your life, such as Trey. What is this?
I don't know.
He forgot. Anyways,
I'm scared to ask. What is that from?
I have to edit that part out.
oh yeah, it's the rise and fall of the Third Reich. It's one of the original Time's Up cards. So we did that for about a year and a half.
We are not neo-Nazis, actually.
No, we're not. But you know that was the
we're the opposite of. But yes, that was a clue from Time's Up, Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. I had forgotten that, but you know, I forget most things.
And as a theme, like we all said on all these things over and over, if it's mitigated, if it's not you win or lose the game by this mechanic, then it can have a place and it can make the game more interesting. Like you said in Argent, like it adds a flavor to one of the mechanics. It's not like in Time's Up where you don't remember this one thing, so you can't win.
Yeah, but in Argent you can go back and look at what you. That's why he has a whole tracker, so you can go back and look at the cards as many times as you want. I call it the Trey tracker. But anyway, my number 2 is, and it's a good mechanic. I just don't like it. Area control is, you know,
It is a good mechanic.
It is a good mechanic. I won't say, you know, this is your personalized list. Nothing. I just don't like area control.
That was one of my many honorable mentions.
Yeah,
it's a good mechanic, but it feels like I'm drowning and trying to use the other player as a flotation device with the entire game.
And you know, you can choose the right area, and you can have a great area control game, or you can have someone constantly fighting over it. It seems like almost completely arbitrary what people are going to decide is a valuable area to fight over. There might be some really valuable area, but nobody might want to go for it. It might be good to have, but maybe fortifying other areas is better, and then they'll give up on the contended area, and then they'll fight you for these unfortified areas, and someone might run away with the game, but they might not have enough. I mean, area control brings in a number of permutations, which literally make up the genre of the game, but, you know, it's very much going to be a case where you can easily be thwarted by someone else going against popular convention in the way that you want to go. And that's why I dislike it, because you just might get hosed, or you just might run away with the game.
And again, if it's heavily mitigated, I feel like it can have a place. Like, I actually like Radis, even though I usually hate area control, just because there are so many player powers and so many special moves that sort of dissolve the you win or lose by this one thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good.
This guy loves area control so much he can't even pretend to utter anything against
I wasn't really listening to what they were saying because it was wrong. So I hope you did the same. So my number 1. Did we get everyone's number 2?
My number 1, yes.
I think we all have the same.
My 2 and 1 are the same as you, so
yeah. So we all take that as our number 1. Although probably I enjoy it more than they do, even though it's my least favorite mechanic. But I actually have a lot of war games on my shelf, which is like there are tons of take that in those games. But there's something in all of the war games that I do own. There's something else drawing me to them, or like in the case of Rebellion, it's a 2-player game. You know, like Star Realms or Star Wars Rebellion, and I'll probably have a few more. There's take that, but they're 2-player take that. So it's like a zero sum. You can't really king make. You can't really have like weird negotiations, weird alliances, because you only have one adversary.
I think I mean, I would actually argue with you that in all 2-player games, the mechanic is either take that or co-op. Usually, so
Yeah.
just about. So.
Yeah, if it's 2-player, you getting something or someone else losing something, it's symmetrical, so it's part of the game.
Yeah. Well, no, there's plenty of 2-player Euro games though, where you don't really take that at all. You just try to out victory point them. Most multiplayer
still,
Euro games.
But yeah, but
can be played by 2 players.
Even if you're going to just do a worker placement type of game, if you block a space that another person wants, it's going to be specifically. It's always going to be against your opponent. I don't know if
but
I mean, I know it's not the main mechanic or anything like that, but I'm just saying I don't think it's possible to make a 2-player game that isn't take that or co-op. I just think it's sort of intrinsic in when one person goes up against it. I mean, even in chess, here, take that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Something like that.
Chess definitely has to take that, but I think
take that and heads up competition are literally the same thing. There's very little difference. But anyways, that's another philosophical debate. As far as take that in a multiplayer system, this is the worst mechanic you can think of. Someone might just decide to go vengeful on you and just try their best to take you out of the game. You come up with heads-up warfare with a person in a multiplayer game, so you're guaranteed both to lose, or if someone just thinks you win too much, then they'll always gravitate towards you for a while, and then by the time they realize, oh, this person's winning, I should go and throw my hate at them. You're already so far behind, it's going to be hard to catch up.
It's a bad mechanic that transcends gaming and goes into human psychology. Like, people have what's called loss aversion, where they hate losing $1 more than they enjoy gaining $1. And when you start adding a take that mechanic where people get attacked, then people start feeling like they've been attacked, they've lost something, they're being targeted. It turns what is a positive experience into a negative experience by this mechanic that you could implement using the other polarity, using the carrot instead of the stick.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Well, we've come to the time of the show where we usually discuss new games. However, as one person only went to BGG Spring, it is now going to turn into our personal interview time with Trey Chambers. Now, as you remember, he gave a disclaimer. These are going to be his worst games that he played. So, Trey, tell me.
Sure.
What was the worst of the worst you discovered?
I would say the worst game that I played at BGG Spring, not necessarily the worst on this list, because there's other games that I didn't play at BGG Spring that are on this list, but the worst game I played at BGG Spring would be Memoir, not Memoir 44 or whatever, but it's called like Memoir. It's supposed to be like, I don't know, it's like an animal-themed memory game.
No. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I think it is pirate-themed, but it's also animal-themed, which is why that's what I jumped to. So it's like animals that are pirates, and it's memory match with a slight twist on it. I don't even remember what the twist was. It was pretty forgettable.
A forgettable memory game? How could this hurt?
Unless you enjoy memory match and maybe want to try memory match with a twist, then maybe check it out. But otherwise, you can just skip it.
Yeah. So it's a bad game where you don't remember the cards, the twist, or the mechanics. Excellent.
No, I remember the main mechanic. It was memory match.
Okay, all right.
I do remember it was memory match. There was some twist on the formula of memory match, but I don't remember what it was, so it's not that important. So I guess next I'll talk about Space Planets and Tiny Park at the same time. These are two Hoppa games. They're just like two little games, and Space Planets was like really bad. Mm-hmm. Don't bother looking at that. It was like a space exploration game, but it was super random. Tiny Park actually was really cool. It was it shouldn't have been on this list, but I was like, let me talk about both the Hoppa games at once. So you have a little plot of land, and you're using dice to like kind of play what's that game? Patchwork. So you're like obtaining rides for your little tiny park, and then you place them in the tiny park, and you're trying to the first person that fills their tiny park wins. So it's kind of like Yahtzee-ish, where you're pushing your luck, trying to roll the right combination of rides to add to your park to fill it out. So instead of using like a scoring system, it's a race game where whoever fills their park up first is the winner. Okay. And that was a pretty unique twist. If it was a long game, I wouldn't like it because it's rolling dice, but I liked it because it was pretty short and pretty cute.
So it's like six-sided die with 6 separate options on.
Yeah, there's like 6 different types of rides on the die, and you roll 2, and I think you can get or one of the rides, or maybe both. I don't remember, but it was a pretty neat system. So check it out. It's a game for kids. So if you have kids, check out Tiny Park by Haba Games.
Were both of those games for kids as well?
Yeah, Space
Okay, so
Planet's
that's like-
also for kids. I mean, Haba mainly makes kids games.
Yeah, I remember.
Let's see, what else is bad? Oh, The Thing at Outpost 31. This is based on the movie The Thing, and it's just a worse version of Battlestar Galactica.
Is it a licensed game?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so. I think so. I'm not 100% sure. They definitely, if it's not licensed, they definitely try to make you think they had the license. Like, they try to approximate everything in the movie.
Okay.
But it's not a good game. It's Battlestar Galactica, but worse.
Ooh.
That's all you need to know about it. If you like Battlestar Galactica, but you're tired of playing it, maybe check it out.
How many
But-
players did it play?
I think it played... Actually, I think it played 9. So,
9.
like, a pretty big player count, and
And then you
the
had,
turns were pretty snappy, but the mechanics were just, like, really bad, and, you know...
was there only one thing, or was it like a thing contingent that you were
No,
fighting against?
there was just one thing, and it went... it's kind of like the Cylons happen in Battlestar Galactica. At some point in the mission, someone becomes the thing, and you don't know who the thing is, but then, like, they can... if they end up on the helicopter at the end of the game, you lose. So you have to figure out who the thing is and not let them on the helicopter. And it was just play Battlestar Galactica or
Okay.
Dark Moon.
Yeah! Dark Moon.
They're just better games. But, okay, MOA, that's an area control game by Martin Wallace. And I'm usually a Wallace fan, but this one was just kind of meh.
Cash that check, Martin Wallace. You know.
You know, he has much better area control games.
He has much better older games.
Yeah.
The older you get, the better it is for Martin Wallace.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
Whatever. You're just waiting for... He only says that because he backed Brass Lancaster. You
That's a
know.
great game. Let's talk about Luxor. This is a Spiel des Jahres nominee, and I did not like this game. I thought it was the most boring game that I played at the
be
con.
brave, Trey.
It is just boring.
You
It's
know,
not...
hold on. Before you go into this, you do realize you want to have a Spiel des Jahres nominated game one day.
Yeah.
All right. So
It won't be as boring as this one, so I already got a leg up. It is this game. So the clever mechanic is that you have a hand of 5 cards, and you can only play your leftmost card or your rightmost card. And then when you get a new card, you put it into the middle, and then it goes in either direction.
okay.
And that's the cleverness of the it's like the Bonanza mechanic, except you can choose from either side.
Okay.
But
And it's 5 cards, right?
it's 5 cards. But it's not really clever. It's just another way to do random movement, but you have it's mitigating the control a little bit. It's like Talisman. Instead of one choice, you have 2 choices. That's essentially what it is. And it's just you go around this track and you pick up things that are worth victory points, and you're racing to the middle, and whoever gets to the middle first gets a victory point bonus. And that's literally the whole game. Like, you're just moving, collecting victory points, trying to get to the center the fastest. But
was it at least a short game, or is it just...
it was way too long. It was like 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just avoid at all costs, in my opinion. I just thought it was really boring. Not a bad game, mechanically, just a very boring one. The Lady and the Tiger. So this is actually a game that's getting really good reviews, but it's like 4 games in one. Well, it's a card game, and there's an instruction booklet that tells you how to play each one. We only played one, and the one that I played, you basically had no meaningful decisions. Like, all the decisions were very obvious. So that's what I'm judging it off of. The other 3 games in the instruction booklet might be really good. I mean, the game is getting pretty good reviews, so maybe we just played the one bad version of the 4. But that was also the one the designer taught us, so I don't know why you lead with your worst foot forward.
Because
But
that's the one that you can teach in
yeah,
20
it was probably the
minutes
easiest
or
one to
10
teach.
minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been this before. You've been trapped as a designer behind
Yeah.
the booth. You know what it's going to be.
But the art is amazing. So, like, some people were just buying the game because of the art. I know the friend of mine that bought the game just bought it because of the art. Like, he didn't even care about the game, and the art is really beautiful, so it's got that going for it. I finally got around to playing Raiders of the North Sea. This is another Spiel des Jahres nominee. No, it's it got nominated for the Kennerspiel,
right?
yeah.
Kennerspiel.
And that game is just also very boring. Like, I thought, getting all these accolades, it would be an interesting game, but it is not. It is just a very, like, go here, get some points, go here, get some points, go here, get some points in a slightly different way. Like, there was just nothing, like, there's nothing bad. It has the same problem as Luxor. Like, there's no bad mechanics in the game, but there was just nothing like, oh, this is a fascinating game, I want to come back to it. So,
What was the principal game? I think I played Raiders of the North Sea, but I can't really. It's been like a few months because it's been out for what 8 months.
Yeah, you're recruiting. It's a worker placement game, right? So you place on the island to get resources. You use those resources to go on raids. You get points from going on these raids, and then you rinse, repeat, keep going on bigger, better raids to get more and more points.
That's good art.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
I enjoy Champions of Midgard more. If you're into the Viking worker placement game. Some games that they can talk about, but let me get through these first. Linko. I played it the other day. This is just a very super basic card game that I did not enjoy. It's rummy. It's just rummy.
Woohoo! We need more rummy games in the world. Can we
slight rummy variant?
Can we play some Phase 10 too? Phase 10, maybe some.
I was about to say I'd rather play Phase 10, but no, I would rather play Linko than Phase 10.
Okay, all right. So at least we're getting a little bit of progress.
The Lost Paradise. That's that game. Y'all played that? That game Ben brought, where it was like that auction game. There's like the 9 spots on the board, and you auction for it.
He played it, right? You played
it. Yeah, you did play it. You just don't remember. It's not a good game. It had that weird. It had like the Lost Paradise is the translation. It's like it has like a foreign title. It's just not a good game. I think it's a Knizia game actually.
Must not have been.
Let's see. Uptown. I think both of them have played Uptown. That game is just like pull a tile to win.
Yep.
Did you pull the tile you need to win? Nope. Well, that sucks. Keep playing, and hopefully you'll pull the tile you need to win. Yeah. Did not enjoy Uptown. I have the same problem with Uptown as I have with Acquire. It's like in Acquire, if you get the tile that you need to make your company bigger, that's super awesome.
You can offset that in Acquire, but it
somewhat,
and you might have other investors. I mean, I think Acquire is so based down in what it is. Its few problems are unfixable, and generally, people. It's considered like a game obstacle to work around as opposed to just being a detrimental kill-all system in the game. So.
I don't enjoy Acquire, but, it has its fans. I'm the Boss. Have y'all ever played I'm the Boss? This is actually a classic game.
Nope.
I don't know.
I've heard of it.
It's a take-that game, but this is a take-that game I actually enjoyed because it was short, because it was late at night, and I was a little bit delirious. And, we were just laughing the whole time. Like, it's not a game to take seriously, because it's very much a take-that game. But it's a card game. You're moving around the board. You're auctioning properties. Kind of similar to Monopoly. I'm pretty sure it was inspired by Monopoly. But in these auctions, you can play, like, take-that cards to, like, screw up someone's auction or, like, steal their stuff. And just all kinds of craziness happens. It's probably not a good game, but one that I enjoyed. Probably wouldn't enjoy playing it often. But maybe a once a year, just laughing, not taking it serious kind of thing.
We're gonna push through this. You won't believe this. This might be the first time we get through an entire list as planned. So go for it, Trey.
Oh, we got
2 more left. Let's do it.
Here's one that I think both of you gentlemen played with us. Lechita. Do you remember that game?
Yes, I've played this game 3 times.
Oh my gosh. Why?
In each of the games, someone has decided that they wanted to quit and end the game because it was going so badly for them and has completely given up. However, the game we played here, I think we finished. So
we all wanted to quit, but we pushed through it.
Yeah, this is the first one I've gotten through. I've actually never been one of the people to quit. I was winning one time. I cannot even remember what was going on in this game. But basically what's going to happen is you will build a city slowly up, and you're competing over 3 resources, I believe, and you have a certain number of people. And as you build and expand the city, you can steal people from other cities. And the people are needed, each spot on the board that you expand your city needs a person to run it. So you might attract so many people from a city that it suddenly doesn't have enough population to run its buildings, in which case I remember the city sort of falls apart. Yes, it does.
It just falls all your hard work.
Yes, you can just watch everything go ahead in the distance. And the person who owns this game, who, by the way, is bringing me sub on the way, loves it, but it's just brutal. And there's pretty much no way to mitigate the fact that even the terrain itself, it's an old game, it doesn't have a reversible map, it doesn't have movable terrain, there are just spots that are just better. Or maybe it's
Yeah, no,
No,
that
it
was
doesn't. Yeah,
the
you-
one that he spawned next to is
Yeah.
by like
The-
undeniably the best spot in the game, and yeah,
Yeah, there are spots on the game that are just better than other spots, and just imagine just playing a game where you make very little money. You're making $5 every turn, and someone from the beginning of the game is making $6.
Yeah.
And you play that
It's like,
whole game like that.
if you ever
And then
played
the next space you make $7, and he moves and he makes 9. So
like
that's how.
if you ever played a randomized Catan game where like there's just the God spot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. Like there's just one spot that's just strictly better on the board than everything else.
Yeah.
All right. So the last game I'm going to talk about is a Sacred Cow. So let's kill that Sacred Cow. It's a new game called Feudum. This is another one that I wouldn't say it's a bad game, but it has major problems. It takes 30 minutes minimum to teach. It took like close to an hour because the guy teaching the game had never played it in our case. So it took like an hour. Imagine learning a game for an hour. One game.
I have. Remind me and Abby to tell you about Bora Bora.
So that's if you're bad at teaching it. If you're good at teaching it, it's still going to take 30 minutes to teach. There's just so much going on in that game. So it's too complicated. I say this, we're about to learn Vinhos, a Vital Lacerda game, does also take close to 30 minutes to teach often, but and are also very complicated. But in my opinion, this game is just too long to teach. It's too complicated. The game itself is too long. It took like 5 hours, 6 hours to play. I think you can probably get that down to like
3 hours.
Maybe
is it,
if people would just move super fast.
Is it going to be like an hour per player? Like it's going to be like
Yeah.
Through the Ages type of deal?
Yeah, we played it with 4 players, so I think, and it took 5 hours. So I think
What's the main mechanic of the game? Like, how are you gaining the resources? Is it like a worker
It's
placement or card draw? Or
action selection.
Action
Like
selection.
you move around the board, and you play these cards, and they do various things. And
But not simultaneous action selection.
was it simultaneous? I don't know. It's
Okay.
BGG Spring was a long time ago. It's like towards the end of summer now. But yeah, it's very fiddly. There's a lot going on. There's just a lot of pieces. And this is not sour grapes. I actually crushed. I won the game by like 10, 20 points, which is a lot in that game. So I wasn't upset because I lost. I actually won, but I just felt like
You got into it
It's
too easily, and you mastered it, and then you just wanted to let it go, right?
it was
I
just-
understand, Trey.
yeah.
I've had these conversations with you, not about board games, but it's good to have one about board games. That's good too. So,
It was just too long for what it is. And if you watch Tom Vassal's review, he says a very similar thing, and I agree with him. I also don't think the cards are balanced. I think some things are untested and just... it's like a game that had a lot of potential, but he needed a developer to be like, you need to take these 3 things out of the game and just like streamline it.
I think Uwe Rosenberg might be available. Hopefully.
He could probably help that game. All right. Did y'all have anything else y'all wanted to add before we wrap it up?
Not this week.
Well, I really wanted to tell people to don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube and Twitter and at eternallyboard.com, and our website is www.eternallyboard.com.
Wait. We also didn't do our intros at the beginning. So
Oh,
before we
didn't?
go,
Oh, okay.
I'm
So-
Trey Chambers. I'm co-host and game designer.
I'm Charles Washington. I'm now working in a law firm. Yeah.
I'm Ian Failing. I program stuff, and I have a phone that we record stuff on.
Yeah. Oh, and it's my birthday today, and I also like to give a special birthday shout out as well to Sarah Chambers, who I share a
Birthday, my daughter's birthday, Sarah. So I'll probably direct you to this, just so you can see that I said this to the world. Happy birthday.
Yeah, and then when this comes out in I don't know June June of next year,
June of next year,
it'll be
It'll
early.
be for the next
it'll be
birthday,
early. Yeah, so,
your 17th birthday. All right, so that's it. Thanks for listening, and until next time,
We're eternally bored, so you don't have to be.
Bye.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.